Do, 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 do. Welcome to the Friends with Benefits podcast, a business podcast about revenue-generating partnerships, not a podcast about business time with friends. We're your co-hosting couple. I'm Jason.
And I'm Sam. Welcome to the show, friends.
Welcome back to the Friends Show. Today we've got a great friend to the Yarby family joining us, a man of many talents and experiences, some incredible experiences building successful partnerships around the world, actually. He's currently the founder of a pretty rad startup called Superglue. And my favorite accolade of all, Sam, is that he is a German cowboy living here in Montana. Rob, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
It's really good to have a local Montanan here, even though I know you're not in Montana right now, but you live in Montana. We could be doing this in the house, but we're doing it virtually.
Yeah, I wish we could, yeah.
Next time. This is not going to be the only time you're on the Friends with Benefits show, guaranteed.
I hope you re-invite me after today.
Absolutely.
Yeah, open invite at all times.
So real quick, funny story. Rob, I don't know if you remember this, but the first time we met, we were at a partnership leader meetup in San Francisco at Dreamforce and just got to chatting. You're a very charismatic guy, so it was great. And then all of a sudden you dropped the bomb that you're from Montana. And all of a sudden you and I were the only people in the room from Montana, and that never happens. So let's start there. You're a German in Montana. How did that happen?
Yeah, I have no idea. Actually, I do. I do. So I lived in San Francisco, and it just didn't make that much sense anymore. And my girlfriend, when she went to, she was looking at schools for a doctorate, and we just ended up deciding to move to Montana, and I love it. I mean, I'd never been before, by the way. We just moved, I'd obviously watched a bunch of movies, so kind of knew what to expect.
And they're all very accurate.
What was the one that actually inspired you to move, though?
A river runs through it is about Montana, but it wasn't filmed in Montana. I'm not sure if you know that. It was filmed in Canada.
Yes, it was.
Yeah, it was filmed.
Was it?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, good. Okay.
In Livingston and over here in Bozeman. Just wasn't filmed in Billings, which nobody really lives in Billings or fishes there, so.
Yeah, nobody films anything in Billings, yeah. That's an inside joke. Nobody's going to get that.
No, that's for us. So that's friends, man. It's what friends talk about.
Now everybody's going to put Billings on their next road trip to find out for themselves.
Yeah, they're going to be like, what are these Europeans doing in Billings? People are very confused. I obviously had to buy a cowboy hat. Cowboy boots and all that stuff. So people are very confused if I wear that stuff and, walk into, a bar and, just start talking.
The next event we're all at together, we should bring our cowboy gear and just all show up in cowboy boots and cowboy hats and just really throw everybody off. Bring it real.
We should.
Spoiler alert, I'm doing a demo jam next week at Connections, and I am fully embracing Beth Dutton as my character. So I'm already ahead of you guys.
I love Beth Dutton. That's you should ride in on a horse. I think that would be.
I tried. It was over budget, but
yeah, we need a horse.
All right, so I want to just jump right in because Rob, as we were kind of doing some research on how to talk about everything you're doing today, there is so much we want to talk to you about. First of all, your experience is very varied, which is super interesting. And what you're doing with Superglue, I think, is super innovative. We are both really excited to kind of dive into that with you. But first of all, let's just start with the obvious question. Will automation be the end of the authentic relationship? Can you tell us about Superglue and what you're out to accomplish and kind of your opinion on automation and how it can either impact positively or negatively relationships?
Yeah. So I'm convinced that without automation and AI, partnerships will not scale as we wanted to. We will, partnership teams, I think, are struggling, compared to, if you look at other departments, if you look at marketing, if you look at sales teams, they all leverage all of these awesome tools, and it makes them a lot more productive, makes them better at their jobs. And I think with, it's similar with partnership teams. I think if you look at like what partner managers do, a significant share of the things they do that they waste time on every day is stuff that's important, but it can easily be automated so they can have more time to do, important relationship building, work on strategic projects, do, co-selling, help people win big deals and that kind of stuff. So I think I see automation and AI as enablers, and with Superglue, we're basically building a workflow automation tool with AI capabilities that helps to streamline, these recurring tasks around partner onboarding, nurturing partners, co-selling, checking in with people, just making sure that you stay top of mind and don't have to neglect like 80% of your ecosystem.
Love that. And kind of talk a little bit about how Superglue is providing some of that process.
Yeah. So ultimately, Superglue is a tool that basically tells partnership managers who to engage with in their ecosystem, when and how. And the way it works, you connect Superglue to your different tools, account mapping, like tools like Reveal and Crossbeam, obviously, to Salesforce. You connect it to Slack, your Gmail accounts, and it basically alerts you in Slack, hey, there is a person that you need to check in with. There's a person that needs to be enabled or that's gotten stuck in their onboarding process. So you get these alerts and you get a recommendation of what to do, like, what message to send to them to get them through whichever phase of the partner lifecycle they're in. And we just implemented and activated our ChatGPT powered functionalities, where we don't just provide you templates, but we use AI to use all of that data and create like very personalized engagement recommendations, right? What to say to people. Like, let's say you have a new overlap in Reveal. You might have a standard template where like, hey, can you give me an intro to this company? Or you can use ChatGPT and AI to draft a joint value proposition that you then just need to review. So that's the stuff we do, and that obviously it makes people more productive, but I think more importantly, it helps drive more revenue ultimately.
So I have a quick question on this, and I was just thinking about this as you were chatting. This year for PFL, we created kind of an internal system of ways to track our partner sellers, specifically within the Salesforce ecosystem. Because up until that point, it was very like you're talking manual. It was like, write down AE's name in my notebook, which accounts they own, and next steps. And then hopefully I remember which page I wrote that on. And then 3 weeks later, I go back to that page with a sticky note.
Yeah. At least you go back to that page.
Well, maybe if I'm lucky.
Yeah.
So we created a tracking system that's like, okay, all AEs, here's the accounts they own. They're either nurtured, engaged, matured, etc. So all of that to say, though, in order for partner managers and leaders to use Superglue successfully, they have to be tracking their partner sellers in a CRM. Is that fair?
Yeah, so I mean, what you just described is awesome. Because obviously, if you have more insights, more data, right, like the stage that each person is in, that enables you to create smarter, better triggers and, more personal interactions, right, that we help you create. It's not necessary because there is a lot of data that people already have. Like, even if you just have Salesforce set up and you don't have any custom fields, etc., just with like a very basic setup, there's already a lot of data. There is the last activity date field in Salesforce, and that tells me when I last interacted with that person. And you can set up a trigger, right? Be like, hey, if I haven't interacted with somebody who works at Salesforce because they're a strategic partner in 60 days, I want to be alerted and I want to be told, how to re-engage them. Or then you already have the contact created date. The contact created date tells me there's a new contact that was, created as somebody who is obviously new, who needs to be onboarded, and I can build triggers on top of that. I've still seen people do cool stuff. And, Sam, you're also like, the CRM space, right? The CRM campaigns, I think with direct mail, it's usually the birthday campaigns, right? It's like happy birthday, you get your birthday card. It's very easy to automate, but it feels very personal and it drives incredible results. And you can do the same even in partnerships where like, hey, you've been in our CRM, you've been a partner, or we've been in touch for 1 year, and you have the contact creator date. And that feels extremely personal. It creates a very valuable touch point, and it's easy to set up. So there are lots of things you can do even without a lot of data, but obviously the more data, the more you can do.
Always, data's king, man. So you and I spent a lot of time talking about this, being that we're practically neighbors. We've walked through a lot of scenarios which you're building, and I'm fascinated by the ability to kind of automate what we'll call the mundane, right? The minutia, the task that are required to make a partner successful. And they're the things that most of us just, at the end of the day, don't like doing, right? And be able to automate this and be able to do it really, dialed in through AI and your workflows. Like, I love that. And I'm going to quote Rob Rebholz here by saying, I've read somewhere that you said,
I'm like sitting down. I'm like that.
Yeah, brace yourself. This is a direct quote from Rob Rebholz that I'm going to read. Anyone claiming that automation will replace partner managers doesn't know how partnerships work. That's a strong, spicy hot take, and I like those. Talk to me.
That is a good quote. Wow.
Yeah. Talk to me a little bit about that and kind of where are you coming from with that approach? And yeah, just give me your take on that.
Yeah. I remember when when did people start using sales enablement tools in sales? Like 10 years ago? Like Outreach, Salesloft. And I remember back then, every salesperson that I talked to was like, no, this is not, we can't, selling isn't something you can automate, right? And nowadays, I don't think there is a salesperson out there that would claim that without these tools, they can do their job properly. And I think the same is true in partnerships, right? I think you always need to differentiate between the different types of interactions. You need to figure out when, and kind of look at what you do on a daily basis. And there are certain interactions that are just repetitive, right? Quite frankly, people already probably have templates, or they either have templates written down somewhere, or they have it in their head. And why, look for a template every single time, go into your CRM, identify somebody you interact with. That's stuff that should be automated. And but at the same time, partnerships is a very relationship-driven thing. It's very much about trust, right? People feeling, valued, liking you. It's not just, I think, being a good partner doesn't just mean you have the best, integration or, most comprehensive solution that fills a feature gap or whatever. It's also about just people liking you, and that requires you to, go to events and meet people, take them out for dinner, chat about their, their hobbies, etc. And these are things you don't automate, and that's stuff you should spend time on as a partner manager, rather than all this other stuff that just wastes your time.
100%. So I like what you said, about making people feel valued and liked. Like, how does the automation process, or what you're doing here, templatizing, how does that automation process ensure that your partners and people feel seen, valued, and liked, versus just being dropped into an automated sequence?
Yeah, that's an important point. So, let's look at the status quo. Like what we currently do, because we're also overloaded with stuff. We do all these lunch and learns, where we talk to a bunch of people and we tell them about this awesome partnership. Then they get a long email, and then we forget about them. And then maybe, we find that post-it note that we wrote, and we check in with them like half a year later. And that person, that doesn't help us build a relationship. Because we just don't have the time. Like, how many people can you manually build relationships with? But now imagine you had a tool that told you, hey, you haven't talked to this person, or this person got stuck in their onboarding. This person isn't using the PRM, or we just uncovered 5 new overlaps with this partner or with this specific AE. this is the stuff like you need a tool that tells you all of that stuff. That tells you, hey, this is
100%.
This is what you got to prioritize. The tool should tell you what to prioritize, or what. That's the first step, and the second step should be a tool should help you to take action. I tell you, propose certain activities, and then you go in and you're like, hey, I've got this. The tool tells me to check in with this person. Here is a template, and then you need the ability to add some content, right? Like write a sentence and add that one sentence that kind of refers to the last conversation you had with them, where you talk about their horse, since we're in Montana. But yeah, I think it's that combination, right? It's a combination of these tools just enhancing, making you a lot more productive rather than you doing all of the stuff manually. And I've seen a bunch of companies, take a bunch of tools and just build these machines that kind of help with that. But it's hard. I mean, Sam, you said like you build stuff in Salesforce. That's a lot of effort. That probably took a while. And then now if you take a tool that was built, like a marketing automation tool that was built for marketing, and try to customize that, put that on top, and then you use Zapier and connect and a bunch of other tools and data sources, and that just gets really hard. And I think that's why people don't do it, because partnership teams don't get the resource anyways, right? Like,
no.
That was going to be one question I had for you, because we have Frankenstein. I think what you're doing is brilliant, because it's not new. Like, all of this stuff exists for sales or for marketing, and there's tool sets that most companies have to support that. And as partner people, I think one of the best skills a person can have is be extremely scrappy. And so that's what we've had to do, like Frankenstein all these tools together to fit our use case and bring people into the fold. So I'm going to go on a little bit of a tangent here. How do you... For a partner manager who sees the value in what you're doing, but doesn't have resources, how can they make that argument?
Well, I think, so the way we built Superglue, we knew this from day one. We knew that people don't have resources. So we built it so that, like connecting Superglue to Salesforce, Slack, Crossway, Reveal, like all of these tools, right? It takes like literally 13 minutes. And you don't need support from sales ops, etc. So it's a very lean setup process. So that's step one. Step two is kind of thinking, what do I automate? Like, where do I start? So, and it's also something that we initially, to be quite frank, we were just like, hey, you connected, it's really easy, and then you just do all of these cool things, but people didn't know what to do. So we started building blueprints and started to recommend, which use case makes most, and started providing templates for these engagement flows, so that ultimately partner managers just need to go in and be like, hey, these are my particular kind of requirements and challenges. They need to kind of maybe adjust some stuff, and I can obviously customize the messages, but I already have a foundation that works, and I don't start from scratch. So we spend a lot of time on that to build a tool that doesn't require you to either have resources or be super technical yourself. I think that's an important thing. I've seen a lot of tools that that are awesome, but take like months to set up, and it's just frustrating.
Yeah, the time to value is not there.
I like it. It's a great time for something like this, especially as we're kind of all in the partnership realm, tasked with doing more with less, and we all hate that phrase. But that's the fact of the matter is we're there.
I kind of like it, I have to admit.
Well, it's good for your business. That's why. And like now, I'm thinking back to when like I was at PFL, and Sam, we talked about this. I think I had at one point trying to bring on like 45 partners, which is impossible for one person to manage. But if I'd had a tool like this that remind me like, oh, hey, HyperX hasn't been engaged in 45 days, like maybe do something. Like I know they have good business, they have a good model, they wanted to partner, but I dropped the ball because there's just too many partners in my patch and not enough resources and people to help manage it.
Yeah, I was going to say, you have two things, right? You have too many partners. That's the one dimension. And the other dimension are like the people within these partner organizations, right? Like, take Salesforce. I don't know when you last counted how many AEs you're connected with within the Salesforce, like within Salesforce itself, Sam. Like, probably like 300, 400?
3,000.
3,000. Wow. Yeah, see, like, I mean, that's not even possible. Like,
It's not.
Even with automation, that's hard. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Wow.
for real.
You just blew my mind. Yeah.
That's what we're here for. That's a direct quote for how good Friends with Benefits is. So let me ask you a question. Like, while we're on this topic of like doing more with less, and so let's say you, Rob Rebholz, are a partner account manager today. You're in that role, and you have a tool like Superglue and a tool like Reveal to really automate the onboarding, the enablement, and get your partner motion fully embedded into your company's go-to-market strategy. What are you going to spend your time doing? Like, what are the actual tactics that Rob's going to do, what you're going to deploy with all that free time that you have to actually build those relationships? Where do you start? What are you going to do?
So I think I love what Reveal is enabling, right? Like, you basically, like, you can identify opportunities at scale. But I think what you need to do first is, before you actually then dive in and ask these people to bring you into deals, you need to build relationships. And I think a lot of people are neglecting the whole onboarding enablement side of things, right? They have, like we just said, right? They have these lunch and learns, and then nothing happens. And then half a year later, you have an overlap and Reveal, and you're like, hey, can you get me into this deal? And I think it's important to do something, like, make sure that there's something in between, right? That you have a proper enablement process where you actually make sure that these people actually understand, your value proposition and why this makes sense. But then also make sure that they're excited, right? It just, like, ultimately it's a very, like, as we said, it's very relationship driven. These people just need to like you. They just need to be aware of who you are. And that's why I think very often I talk to people that set this stuff up and they're like, oh, we don't have all of this content yet. And I tell them, you don't need that much content. You need to obviously tell them, what's the joint value proposition? What's the joint value that how do you provide value for them and their customers? You need to make sure that they kind of get your positioning, they get your target audience, etc. It's not that much. You just need to kind of break it into a lot of little pieces. So I think very often we make the mistake that we just send people, link to the PRM. We're like, there is all this information. The PRM, take the 17 trainings, or here's this long email and like 7 PDFs that you should read. And I think what's more important is to break that into very small pieces, and like just over the course of probably like 2-3 months, just, kind of nurture them. Don't spam them. Just create these touch points, these meaningful touch points that then put you in a position kind of in their heads of somebody that's trusted and that's liked. And when that opportunity comes up, they're like, of course I'm going to make that intro. I know you guys. I know why we should work together.
So I love that, because I think one thing that's often overlooked is, like, for partner managers, for partner teams, your partners are your customers. And a PRM is basically like a customer comes to you with a question and you're like, just go look at the website, it's there. Like, sending people to PRMs, like, doesn't really land. And so it's a marketing campaign. It's staying top of mind. It's staying, it's adding value before you make an ask. And I think that's super, super important. I want to go back to one thing because it's super relevant to my world, selfishly. We've talked about here, our goal at PFL is Sam and Alex and Kurt and Peyton, my team, doing business with Salesforce AEs on a one-to-one level, not PFL doing business with Salesforce.
Yeah.
You have been named Salesforce's and SAP's ISV co-selling partner of the year, which is extremely impressive. So let's talk about that. Like, getting preferential treatment from these big alliances. That's no easy feat. How have you managed that?
Yeah, it was Focus ISV, so not partner of the year for only SAP. So, but
okay, still.
But the thing is, and to be quite frank, I mean, we were we were a startup at the time, like 50 employees. So the way we did it, I think. So everybody always talks about give to get, and I personally think give to get is awesome, but I think it's overrated. The reason why I think it's overrated is because, if I work with a company like SAP, like, it's almost impossible to give enough to, like, especially as a small organization, for them to even realize that I'm giving them something. And the other thing, very often it's just not possible. Like I always told my partners, so we always, similar thing with you, with PFL, Sam, right? Like we integrated into, or still integrate with my previous company in all major marketing automation platforms. So if I do give to get, I'm kind of giving one of my partners a lead and I'm backstabbing the other because they're already using that other solution. And I can't do that. And I always told my partners, I'm not going to give you leads just because I can't. Because I have to, like, you don't want me to do the same to you. So I was a lot more focused on, rather than giving leads, on kind of like, where do they have feature gaps and how can we address these feature gaps and how can we help them, win more deals. It's a lot harder to tell that story, but it works, and that's what we did. And the approach we took is we didn't go in and start to be like, hey, we've got this new awesome integration, please sell us. We literally I told sales, I was like, hey, we have this integration, here's what we do, and now give me 3 months and I'm going to come back and I'm going to show you how we made your customers a lot happier. And that's what we did. We had a couple of really big customers of theirs, and we just made them very happy, and we kind of told them to tell Salesforce, right? And these other partners, and that created kind of a different motion. It wasn't us telling them that we're awesome. It wasn't us asking them anything from them. It was their customers approaching them and telling them that they love this integration. It makes their solution more powerful. And that then we went out and we created marketing campaigns where we told these stories. So I said, like, hey, here is how we add value to Salesforce, and here's why we love Salesforce and working with Salesforce. And that kind of created a different perception on the other side, right? I think it was a bit different to what they're used to, and got them really excited. And at one point in time, they started coming to us and they're like, hey, can we bring you into deals? Can we do stuff for you? AE started to approach us. So that was kind of the approach that worked really well for us. And what I would recommend to people, because I see it too often that people are like, hey, I shared 2 leads, now give me yours. And it's just, it's hard. And again, it can work, but it's very often it's not how it works. Yeah.
No, I love that. That's really good. It's worth kind of breaking down for a second, just kind of like laying that out, because I think too often we get hung up on like the referral aspect of, like when you said, give to get, and another spicy hot take, give to get's overrated. And in this case, and I love the approach that you kind of Trojan horsed in through your customers. You listened to their feedback. You built a necessary product that became an integration to one of your partners. They may not have noticed you if you just went to them and said, hey, we built this integration, help us, get in front of your customers. But you allowed your customers to take it to your partner. They established the value for you. And then once Salesforce or the partner began to notice, they came to you because they saw the value in it, and you were able to work together. So a lot of times people think about there's not a whole lot of, quote unquote revenue and integrations, but in this case, when you're solving for something and you're actually providing value, which we all know I love the word value and what it provides, like that's really when things begin to take off. And I think that's worth people really listening to and kind of taking note of.
The other thing that I think is really crucial about what you just said there is it's not always tit for tat, and it's not always super obvious. Like, it's not like as we said, you give me this, I give you that. We often receive and give different points of value to a partnership than we may think. So for those of you that don't know, I work at PFL, which is an automated direct mail provider, and Rob's previous company is an automated direct mail provider. So we're speaking the same language here. But it's so true. Like, downstream, we connect to major marketing automation platforms or CRMs. So the value that we provide to them is very different than leads. It's filling holes. It's making your platform stickier. It's, in some cases, yes, it's giving commission and quota relief to AEs. Sometimes it's small, but you have to be really creative about what that value is and then tell that story really, really well. And it's not always obvious, so you have to look big picture as a partner leader.
And especially with, you just said it, right? Like with direct mail, like a lot of these AEs, they hear direct mail, like, what is this? It's like,
And why do I care?
Why do I care about
Right.
snail mail? I'm like, wait. And then you need to really educate them, like, how do you add value? Like, hey, do you realize that all of these big retailers that you work with, like one of their main marketing channels or CRM channels is direct mail? You may not be aware of it, but this is one of the most important channels for these guys. And they currently run this like in the 90s, and here's how all the stuff we can do. And it's just, that requires a lot of work, but it's possible. Even with like kind of a topic that isn't maybe as, attractive as, some new AI capability. But it's possible, and it's very powerful once they get it. We're these people that initially just didn't really care, then became super fans.
Totally. And yeah, I mean, I think it adds value to the customers. Like, they're not talking to you, Salesforce AE, about it because they don't think they should be. But that means you're leaving money on the table. Your platform's less sticky. Yeah, you're speaking my language here. So we can move on and take this one offline.
Yeah, people like, this is boring.
We've all been in direct mail, so maybe we're just like, this is the direct mail podcast.
Yeah, direct mail with friends, yeah.
I'll take the wheel and change course a little bit and get back to like the relationship side of things. You've got a list of 9 deadly sins that I know about, and number 2 on that list is one that I happen to love, is that short-term thinking murders long-haul relationships. Hopefully this is ringing true. Let's break that down. Like, how did you come to this conclusion? How did you come to this as being one of the deadly sins?
Yeah, this is the relationship thing. You need to, before you make an ask, you build a relationship. Before you start to talk about your expectations and what you want from that partnership, you need to deliver and invest time. I think it's a lot of organizations. This is like the big challenge that partnership teams struggle with. They people don't understand that it isn't something like sales that you turn on. You hire a salesperson, they start building a pipeline, and then there's revenue. It's a different play.
Yeah.
And very often we rush things, right? Like we don't use tools the right way. So I think that this is really important. And this is, I think, one of the most important points to communicate to your C-suite when you build a partnership team, like that this is something that works differently. It's a lot more sustainable, right? Once the machine is up and running, once your partnership team drives revenue, when you've got these partnerships and these relationships, this is very sticky. Somebody new coming in will really struggle to kind of replace you. But it takes time. It took me, when I built this the first time, it took me 2 years for anything to really start happening, and all of a sudden just everything went through the roof. But it was hard.
Yeah. So let's dive into something you just mentioned there. Like, how do we tactically take this relationship talk? Like, hey, our strategy and focus is building relationships. I've been down this path. How do you take the relationship talk to the C-level and like actually get them bought in? Like, yeah, you're right. We should focus on building relationships, because most of the time, in some of my experiences, it's like, screw that. Like, go get some freaking revenue.
Revenue.
But like, how do we get the C's to listen? Like, relationships matter.
So what I always liked to do is kind of, I think the C-suite gets how customer relationship management works, how you build relationship with customers, how you turn customers, first-time customers into raving fans. And I think they understand, the effort that it takes, and, because everybody's investing, right, in like marketing automation, etc. And I think that it's important to think about partnerships in a similar manner, right? Like to think about see it as a partnership as a life cycle, and I need to take every person through a life cycle. And I think I need for the C-suite to understand the process of building relationships and how that takes time. The other thing is communicating the value that partnerships bring. It's leads. It's definitely leads, and should be leads, by the way. I think at least in 90% of the cases. but it's important to also show all the other benefits. Like I was shocked when I built the ecosystem in my previous company, and I started to, I was actually like in the like transitioning out. We reached a bunch of milestones. We hired a senior management team, and I started to kind of transition, starting working on Superglue and just running that process. And one of the things I did is I started to really dive into the numbers, and I was shocked. Like when I started to look into the impact that partnerships had on all the other functions that I wasn't even aware of. I looked at the churn, and I saw that like our customers that we work with with partners, like I think they churned like 50% less. Like I looked into sales cycles, and all of a sudden I realized like how big the impact of the ecosystem was. I wasn't aware of that, and I think that's important too for the C-suite to understand. But at the same time, I think partnership teams shouldn't be like, hey, we just help everybody and we make everybody happier, and you can't live without us. I think you need to focus probably like on like 2 or 3 areas of impact and optimize for those, and kind of gear your organization towards kind of achieving these goals. And one of them is probably generating leads. Or driving revenue.
Yeah, or like I like your approach of like speak their language. Like if they don't, understand the benefit of like building relationships versus just getting leads and revenue, like speak their language. Like we understand the importance of having good customer relationships. We know why that matters. We have a whole team around customer success, right? Here's why we needed to be partners, because we're, the whole, 1 + 1 = many, right? We're not activating one, we're activating many. And, in order to do that, we have to have, their trust. We have to be providing the value. And I think that begins to make it more, comprehensible to their language, to what they're focused on building. And yeah, like, when the last program I was building, we kind of broke it down to like, we're going to focus on a couple of relationships. Yeah. Not a ton. Like we're going to get it right with a couple, because if we can get it right with a couple, we can get it right with many. And I think love that. A lot of programs miss out on that.
Amen.
Oh, I love it. That's, by the way, one of the big mistakes I made. When I started out, I was like, well, let's, partnerships are great. Let's build tech partnerships, agency partnerships. We did white labeling. Like we dumped like hundreds of thousands of dollars into like this white labeling project. And it was just a mess in the end. And then I kind of, at some point in time, I sat down and I looked at all the stuff we did. I was like, this is all over the place. We don't have an idea of our IPP, the value proposition. We don't have a process. And we killed everything except the tech partnerships. A very select few of tech partnerships, focused on those, made it work, made that, became really successful. And then we just replicated that model, just added further tech partners. We had, we built a blueprint there. And like you said, right, we had this proof of concept. We're like, hey, we have these 3 tech partnerships and they drive a lot of revenue. And just imagine we did more with them and we did more with others like them. And then we started adding agency partners, and never did the white labeling again. That was just stupid.
Well, you got to learn your lesson some way.
You can't be the Oprah of partnerships. Like everybody gets a partnership.
I think that's so crucial, though. I mean, like, I remember when I came on here and the team was like, it's just hand-to-hand combat. We're just, we're just figuring this out as we go. And I literally verbatim was like, okay, well, we can either continue to tread water or we can build a life raft. Like, there needs to be a strategy. There needs to be a repeatable process. Otherwise, we're never going to get ahead. So obviously the premise of this podcast is relationships, and one thing we talk about a lot here on the show is internal relationships and how important those are to partnerships with other teams that you work with, albeit product, CS, you name it.
Okay.
Do you have any customers who are using Superglue for internal enablement or automation, or is this something you've thought about?
Yes. Yeah, I love it. We have a bunch of features that are or capabilities. Actually, it's also stuff that we're rolling out right now that helps with that. So we are about to roll out multi-stakeholder workflows. So
nice.
Stuff like imagine you have an overlap, a reveal. So what is the first step? You need to ask somebody in your organization. Let's say like we have an overlap, a customer of ours, opportunity of our partner, because we want to do give to get. we have to we should first ask our CSM if we can actually, if they're willing to help our partner, right? Because there might be a problem. Like, I've seen this, like, people like, yeah, I can make an intro, and then we found out that customer just wasn't too happy with us at the time, and just it wasn't the right moment to make an intro. So, in a multi-stakeholder workflow, you can be like, hey, here's this, we can help this partner of ours, they're important. Are you willing to assist? And this is what we need. And then you can click a button, for example, that says yes. And only then we trigger kind of the next step, which is letting the partner manager know. And then potentially, if the partner manager is okay, us reaching out to their AE. So it's a big, involving all of these people is important. And yeah, we thought about it a lot. To be quite frank, we didn't when we started Superglue. I just wasn't aware of how much can be done, but it's become a big topic. And yeah, it's a lot of, we think about this stuff a lot. It's there's a lot of stuff we're going to announce that's related to that. Yeah.
I love that, and I think I love it. Like the partner data that we can now get access to via the reveals and crossbeams is only as good as the workflows we can build around them. We talk a lot about Nearbound being a part of the go-to-market team's motions, but you really can't get there until you've provided all the workflows and operationalize all that data. So like the workflows you're able to build with Superglue and being able to expose, right, those overlaps, and maybe even using ChatGPT to expose those better together stories, JVPs, whatever we want to call it, in conjunction with those overlaps and those notifications. Like that begins to create that flywheel of how an AE begins to work with partners, and we automate that whole process where they they're just, yes, accept, do this, do that. And then partner is engaged without the AE having to actually take a whole lot of steps outside of 10 seconds worth of clicking.
Yeah, and adding a sentence or whatever. Yeah, exactly. Totally with you.
And so in that case, like I'm all about the automation.
So one thing we've kind of chatted about here, we've all taken this approach, is like, instead of going after the masses, get as many partners as you possibly can, focus on those that are providing value, enable them, and make a repeatable process. One question I do have is, in your opinion, do you think that automation could be a way to like vet potential partners or test if they're worth investing in further or walking away from? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so I mean, there's so much you can do. I feel like it's really a question of like, what are the biggest pain points? What I see a lot is that people onboard new partners, and partners just get kind of lost in the onboarding process. They're very excited in the beginning, and then they kind of churn, or they're not activated properly. And so it's not like, and very often we're like, oh, they weren't that excited anyways. We should have, vetted them differently, or maybe shouldn't have even started onboarding them. But I think very often it's our fault as partnership teams that we just forget about them. We just forget to check in with them, kind of push them through the process proactively. So I think that's a big topic. But yeah, I think there are a lot of cool use cases, probably also in terms of vetting partners, kind of figuring out there are certain times where you have to take this certification. Here's something you have to do. And I think automation can make sure that we do tell our partners what we want from them at certain points in time. And if they don't deliver, we can, we might just get an alert, hey, this person is just not willing to do the work. There's just one certification we need and they're not doing it. It's been 9 weeks. This is it. Stop engaging with them. You could do that too. Or AI, etc., can help you identify certain patterns too, right? That you're like, hey, this is when these things happen. These are the partners that don't drive revenue, and these are the patterns that show us that this partner or the person within the partner organization is very willing to work with us, is keen to work with us. That's what I see in a lot in my personal. It's one of the tricks that I used building when we built our partnerships with big platforms. Was we usually looked for these super fans or these influencers within these organizations. Within Salesforce, these were often RVPs. So they were kind of, they had cloud, they had bigger teams, but they were still operational enough. And what we saw is whenever we got an RVP on board and got them excited, that was that that started like an avalanche, because they then got on their AEs, they talked to other IVPs, and that just had incredible kind of really good benefits for us, and kind of spillover effects.
No doubt. And one thing we've seen too is like, you just mentioned it, but on that person-to-person level, we now know who our most productive Salesforce AEs are, and we can report that back to the RVP to be like, why isn't the rest of your team on board?
Yeah.
Like, these guys are driving a ton of revenue. The rest of your team is leaving money on the table. And so using that data and leveraging it, I think, is crucial.
Yeah, I love that. By the way, that's also a use case. Like, plus you could be alerted, be like, hey, this person is really helpful. Now is the time to ask them, or we just help them win a deal. Now is the time that you should ask them to refer you to the rest of their team, or, assist you with something else. So to kind of use them to expand your reach in the ecosystem.
Totally.
Love that way to put the excitement to the test. So going back to vetting partners and kind of automating them real quick before we bring this home. Do you believe it makes sense to kind of automate all partners, or there are some levels of partners or some levels of relationships that should be kind of taken through one-on-one? Like, is it worth, like, if someone is very strategic in nature, I'm going to just do this, with you, or is it everybody gets automated?
Yeah, I think it's a great point. So I think it's a phased approach. And you usually start with the tier 3 partners, tier 3, tier 2. And then within the partners, like, it's certain people, right? Like the junior AE is probably somebody that don't have the time to, like, get on a call with a junior AE in a tier 3 partner all the time. But it's different for that RVP or, certain people. Like, if I have a connection with an SVP, I'm not going to automate my interactions with, like, an Salesforce SVP. I'm like, hey, just checking in.
Mark Benioff.
I miss you. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. ChatGPT wrote this message. So it really depends on the partner, the partner type, the importance of the partner, and then the kind of the importance of the people within the partner organization. And I'm not saying that, hey, these people are less important, that's why we automate stuff and we don't care about them. What I would argue is that we don't neglect them anymore. We don't, right? Because in the past, we just didn't have the time to engage that person. We just ignored them till we thought we needed them. Or they never thought about us again, and they, whenever they came across an opportunity, they don't remember us. So I think it's, it's an enabler to maintain that relationship. And if it's done well, just like look at B2C. Like, I know that the messages I get from certain B2C brands are automated. I still like them. I still, if they're done well, if it's hyper personalized, if it's relevant, I'm like, this is cool. Like, I get these, birthday emails, and I know that they're automated, obviously, but they're happy. I'm like, this is cool.
Still makes you feel special.
Come get your free ice cream. Rob's coming, man.
I just give out socks. You know that.
Yes, I have a pair, and I have a hat, so thank you very much.
Yeah.
All right, so I have a off-script question that we did not give you any headway on this. So you just had a baby.
Yeah.
How old's your baby now?
6 months.
Okay, so brand new. So Jason and I have 2. Also, hot take, we're married. Throwing a baby in the mix definitely changes your relationship. How are you and your wife approaching your relationship differently now that you have a baby?
Well, it's hard. I totally underestimated
so dang
it.
hard.
Man, wow. It's like, I have to admit, I was so naive. I was always like, people like, oh, this is hard, and you don't get sleep, and I always claimed that.
You're like,
I'm
suck it up.
Come on, And I told people, I was like, I'm just gonna have him, sleep next to me, and I'm gonna take him in calls. I'm gonna be that awesome dad that is like, gets on calls with a baby and just, multitasks. And yeah, I totally failed, obviously. I tried it once where I onboarded with 10 people on the other side. Like, this is so cool. And like, he started screaming for like 45 minutes, and it was a total disaster. But yeah, it's hard. And I have to admit, it's easier for obviously me as a dad, because like I can't feed him at night, like, obviously, right? Like, so it's just, yeah, it's interesting, kind of new phase. There are new types of fights that obviously happen, but at the same time, it's just so cool. It's just so much fun.
The wildest, strangest time.
The best. Well, for the record, you're not failing. Jason and I have these conversations all the time of like, well, tomorrow's a new day and we're going to do better.
Yeah. Sometimes like, oh man, we thought this would be so easy. But then the other times it's just like it's just great. It's great, but I have a lot of respect for people who are like 2, 3, 4, kids.
Same. Congrats. And I will say 6 months is like, this is when it starts to get a lot better. So you're on the up and up.
Yeah, you're on the other side now.
You're saying like in 2 months it's going to be really easy. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, exactly. Then they start walking and it just gets harder again.
Yeah.
But we've digressed. So let's bring it home. We like to end with a fun question, something relevant to the guest, something friendly, right? So the German Aerospace Center, they succeeded in establishing a new world record for the heaviest weight ever lifted by glue, to keep it contextual to superglue. So what's your guess as to how much a 15 by 15 square inch of a glued area managed to lift?
You know what I struggle with? I mean, I've lived in the US for like a total of like 7, 8 years, and I still don't know what was it, 15 inches?
Yeah.
What was it in centimeters?
So, no, oh boy.
It's like it's a little more than a foot.
Yeah.
My answer can be in kilograms, obviously, right? I would say 2 tons.
Okay, here, I'll get the converter out.
No, I would say 5 tons.
Yes, your guess is better than Sam's was last night. The real answer, I know for those who are on the edge of your seat waiting at home, the real answer is 16 tons.
Wow.
So you were almost a third of the way there.
Yeah.
German engineering.
Glue, man. Glue is strong. Super glue is the strength to your partnerships. You can pick up so many partnerships, failed partnerships, and just kind of hold them there for you. So let's not forget that. Rob, it's been a pleasure.
It was a pleasure. Thank you so much.
It's been a total pleasure. And here's the pitch. Anybody that wants to come to Montana, now you got 3 partner people. Beers on us. Come on out.
Yeah.
All right, friends. Thanks so much. If you aren't connected with Rob, do yourself a favor. Go find him on LinkedIn. His content is like, I learn so much from him every time. So thank you again, Rob. Good luck with everything. You're a friend of the Yarbys. And we'll see you next time, friends.
See ya.
Thank you. See ya.
Do, 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 do.